Welcome to the Fleet Geeks podcast. We're here to help develop fleet and transport professionals. Do you want to progress and develop your skills and knowledge? We promise to bring lively conversation and debate around interesting issues and keep you bang up to date with changes in our awesome industry. The Fleet Geeks are a community of professionals, and if you enjoy the podcast, why not join the discussion for free in the Fleet Geek community over on Facebook?
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Fleet Geeks podcast. I'm here to speak to you today about something that's quite important. So I've come across regularly as being a DVSA and recognition audit provider and providing operator license compliance audits. One of the most common reasons for DVSA investigation is due to intelligence that they receive. Okay, so that might trigger a desk-based assessment. It might trigger a request for information around tachograph, for example. And just this week, I've been on site with a new client who have largely completely innocent. Yes, their systems haven't been the best, and they've been struggling to recruit a transport manager and various issues like that. But you can bet your bottom dollar that when things are under stress and being challenged, that's when there might be a situation about whistleblowing. So it's just a vital thing to have a good understanding of, and it's a really good thing for you to understand how you can prevent it and what to do if someone does have some whistleblowing or gives the DVSA some intelligence. Because what will happen is the DVSA will act on that. So the best thing to do is to try and nip it in the bud and prevent it occurring in the first place. Because ultimately, if people know your compliance with the regulations is as good as it can be, then what's the point in causing you harm or attempting to cause you harm? That's my thought process anyway. So whistleblowing is really important, understanding what it is. So whistleblowing is when somebody makes a complaint about some wrongdoing by the company, and in particular they may do it internally, in which case make sure you deal with it. Okay, so if they do that internally, if they raise that internally, that's actually a really good thing, and you should see it as a positive thing and try and tackle it as quickly as possible, because actually they may escalate it to external bodies like the DVSA. Now, some disgruntled transport managers or drivers might decide to whistleblow directly to the DVSA without pre-warning you, and you may never know who it was. But ultimately, that's what whistleblowing is. It's essentially a sort of raising of an issue to an external body. So things that count as whistleblowing are things like criminal offences or fraud, health and safety being in danger, risk or damage to the environment, potentially a miscarriage of justice. The company might be breaking the law, they're not following compliance, or you believe someone's covering up some level of wrongdoing. So that's things that count as whistleblowing. Things that don't count as whistleblowing are things like personal grievances, like bullying, harassment, discrimination, those kinds of things. The DVSA, I anticipate, would politely decline to deal with. They're only going to deal with things that are related to people upholding their reputation as appropriate operators. Okay, so that's what whistleblowing is. Now, how do you actually try and stop this happening, right? Because the tricky thing is sometimes you break a few eggs to make an omelette, right? And sometimes you might recruit people who are a bit toxic, or you need to get rid of them, or they're not quite right, and that kind of stuff. And the thing is you do need to do that. So in the background, this is a really good reason for those transport managers among you that are really struggling to get buy-in from the company directors around some of the stuff that you're trying to do, some of the stuff you're trying to get on board. You need to really make them aware that this is a really common issue. And the thing is you never see it coming. And it's quite often that people are going to leave and not be happy that they've left. They may feel there's some level of injustice, and that stuff happens, right? That's part of everyday business, which is why it's so important to make sure, because I tell you, it'll always be when you're most vulnerable. What I say to people is some companies, particularly small to medium-sized hauliers, their compliance is sort of a bit like this. It's not always perfect due to personnel issues and those kinds of things. And it's when the personnel issues hit that it's going to cause you the most issues.
Hello, it's Shani from Flagship Partners. We are really proud to sponsor the Fleet Geeks podcast. If you need expert advice or training for your fleet business, make Flagship Partners your first choice. We are really excited to announce the launch of our Transport Manager Academy. With expert development for fleet leaders, we offer fully accredited initial Transport Manager CPC training, CPC refresher, and operator license awareness training, as well as mentoring, support, and professional development beyond the qualification. Our vision is to develop elite fleet professionals.
So how do you prevent that? How do you sort of prevent and the thing is the best guidance I can offer is about fostering a culture of transparency and compliance, and essentially that will help discourage whistleblowing as best we can. Okay, so I've got 3 tips for that. The first is to make sure that you've got a really clear set of policies and procedures. Okay, step number 1, because if you've got those, that demonstrates your ethical behavior. It demonstrates your commitment to regulatory compliance and reporting processes within your organization. Okay, and that then means that employees know the proper channels for addressing any concerns and making sure they feel confident that anything they do report will be taken seriously and handled appropriately. Okay, so that will then encourage people not to go externally to places like the DVSA. It'll encourage them to report internally. So we need to make sure that we've got those clear policies and procedures. Now, this is something that Flagship obviously can help you with, and we help many of our clients with. And that's hugely beneficial because there's so much work involved when reporting to the DVSA and those kinds of things. The next is to promote open communication. So encouraging a culture where employees feel they can comfortable with voicing any concerns they have without any fear of retaliation or retribution. So making sure you got things like team meetings, suggestion boxes, any anonymous feedback mechanisms, maybe a person who represents the drivers or someone that represents the transport manager, making sure we've got clear and open channels of communication. Really, really important, because that enables people to feel like they can express a concern. And when people do express a concern, we don't want to just roll our eyes and go, oh, you again. I genuinely recommend, as transport managers, as frustrating as sometimes it may be, it's really important to deal with those situations because it could end up escalating. It could escalate externally. So you need to keep an eye out for that. That is a risk factor. Okay. And then the third tip is to provide training and support. Offer training programs on relevant regulations, conduct, reporting procedures, making sure people understand their rights and responsibilities, making sure that they know about the potential consequences of non-compliance and what you're doing to be able to ensure that that doesn't happen. Enable them to raise any concerns such as, and tell them that they're protected and they can access any legal assistance, counselling, etc., that you'll help support them. Okay, because fostering an environment of transparency is going to help increase trust and accountability, and it's going to mitigate the likelihood of any whistleblowing incidents and demonstrate your commitment to upholding regulatory compliance. So those are my 3 things: establish clear policies and procedures, promote open communication, and make sure you train people on those things as well. So whistleblowing, big challenge, particularly if whistleblowing occurs to the DVSA. What will happen off the back of it? So I told you what it is and how to try and prevent it. What's going to happen if you do get whistleblown to the DVSA is they are going to investigate. They are going to investigate that situation. Let me just take a drink of coffee. And the thing is, the way they're going to do that is, depending on the nature of the complaint, will depend on how they handle it. There's numerous ways. It might be that they request information around taco records. They might request to come to site and carry out either a traffic examiner visit report or a maintenance investigation visit report if it's related to maintenance. They may do both. They may come and do both. They may turn up unannounced, or they may do a desk-based assessment. So there's numerous things that could happen. All of them are not ideal because they take time, they take effort, they cause a lot of stress. People worry about them. There's a potential for causing negative OCRS points. So, you know, and then obviously if things haven't worked out properly, then that can result in a report up to the traffic commissioner. So that's where the public inquiries come from, right? So let's get to the root cause. Let's foster the culture of transparency, compliance, get all that right first in the first instance to prevent all of that. Because the thing is that DVSA investigation goes wrong, that's going to get escalated, and all of a sudden the costs and the time just increase and increase and increase. So it's much easier to protect yourself early doors, get an audit done, see where the non-compliances are, get an action plan in place, have a chat with me. This wasn't meant to be an advertising pitch by me, but nonetheless, it just demonstrates the value that Flagship Partners and obviously other audit providers are out there, but it demonstrates the value that we provide on a proactive basis, reviewing systems and dealing with those. I hope this has been interesting. I hope it's maybe triggered some things for you to think about around whistleblowing and how to prevent it. Make sure you don't just roll your eyes at people when they come to discuss things, because, you know, the next step, they might be discussing that with the DVSA anonymously, and that's not ideal. Okay. So I hope that's useful. Please drop anything in the comments, and if you're interested, please do drop me a shout. And obviously, if you want any audits or anything like that, please do get in touch with Flagship Partners. We're you guys. Thank you very much, and take care.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share with your friends and colleagues too. Join us for free on Facebook with the Fleet Geeks community for transport and fleet managers. Fleet Geeks offers ongoing professional development, networking and mentoring too. So get in touch with me, Pete Rushmer, on any social media platform to find out more.